Good morning and welcome to Craner's Corner. It is Friday the 18th of October and today we'll start with the Hong Kong index Hang Seng. Here's the CAS index that is finding support here, 19,924. This is the gap area. So it was very close to test it here on the 17th, and this morning it is trading in this little narrow gap here. If it does close below, well then I think we'll see a push towards 19,000, possibly lower. But if it does close back above 20,322, then we could see a resuming of the uptrend that is likely to be confirmed if it pushes above 20,783. And if we are looking at the Hong Kong CFD, you can also see 19,771 support bouncing out from it as we speak. Here's the HK50 CFD / future forming this a little bit like a bullish engulfing pattern. But again, the market is still open, so it's not just there yet. But if we add a Fibonacci very quickly, we can see that where it can move to, where there's some support and resistance, and 21,140. There's a little bit what we could see a push up to 21,947. However, there's not really much divergence here, and if we get the RSI back above 60 threshold, and the same picture on the CAS index, obviously, if it closes up 60 threshold, well then bullish trend is likely to resume. On the US market, S&P 500, well, more or less unchanged after opening higher. It's struggling a little bit. There's still no divergence on the RSI, indicating that we are likely to see new highs, but we could still see a little bit of a correction phase going on, testing of this rising trend line here. If it breaks below, well, then a larger correction down to around 5,700 could be seen. We have support here, 5,674. That is key. Nasdaq 100. Also unchanged today after opening higher. It is still the 20,041 that is key, that it dipped below here the other day. If it closes below, then well, we could see a super sell-off down to around 19,622. We are still in an uptrend. It is a little bit stressed at the moment. It is struggling really. On the European market, EUROSTOXX 50 that yesterday closed or it was actually on the 16th, closed just a few cents above key support 4,907, bounced yesterday, now back above 49.43. That is really the battle that's going on here. But we have the 200 moving average coming up. We have the 55 and also the 100, and I think in a couple of days we could see the 55 crossing over all the other in the moving averages there. And if they do, well, then there is potential higher in the coming weeks and months for EuroSTOXX 50. But for now, keep an eye on 49.07. Could dip down to 48.54 if it closes below that level. The DAX index. It's a strong move yesterday, and it actually did make a new all-time high, both an all-time higher close, but also a spike higher. And despite the fact that we could see a correction, and I think I will actually remove this one until we actually see a correction, I will add a horizontal line, and this is what you should also say. Okay, if it moves back below 19,400, well, then we are likely to see a correction lower. But for now, we are in a bullish trend, despite we are having some divergence there on the RSI, meaning there it's a little bit stressed at the moment. It's not really confirming it, but if RSI moves above 69.32, well, then it has been cancelled, and there is further upside potential. The AX Amsterdam index still holding on above 892, bounced a little bit yesterday from it. Also, RSI bounced from 40 threshold, and I think it will, here over the next couple of days, we'll try to get back above 909, which is a bit of a struggle. We have the 100 moving average here. That would kind of be a little bit of resistance, but the key up here is 927. If it closes above 909, if it closes below 892, well, then we are looking at 878, possibly lower. The CAC index, well, still holding on above the 74, 64, and actually above the 100 moving average right now. That's the pink one there. could push towards 77.25 as we are in a positive sentiment on the RSI, supporting higher levels on CAC in the coming days. The Swiss market closed about 12,250, and I think now we'll go into a bullish trend finally, you can say. We closed above 60 threshold, meaning we are in a positive sentiment now on the relative strength index, and is likely to put towards 12,500 here in the coming week or two. Euro dollar, well, continued yesterday. The sell-off towards 108, very close to 108.11. It could still dip down to 108 or 107.90, maybe even lower to these lows here we are very close to, but we also a little bit stretched at the moment. So I think we could see an exhaustion of the selling and a bounce. So keep an eye on that. If we move back above 108.80, then we could see a correction up to 109.50 level. But for now, it's still a little bit heavy, and I think we could spike down to around these levels, and then I think it's done for this time at least. Euro sterling, oops, let's just adjust that a little bit. Likely to test the lows here at 83.10, and if we are looking at the weekly chart, we can see what's actually going on. It is in a bearish trend, likely to push towards 82.5, 82.30, which is support going all the way back to 2022. The cable sterling dollar pair here, well, seems to be bouncing around the 130 level. There's 100 moving average coming up, giving a little bit of support. We have the cloud support here, that is the shaded area. So I think we could see it slowly picking up, but the RSI is still a negative sentiment. So there's still a little bit of risk to dip down to around 129, 35, 40 level. But then I think it's done for this, and then we could see a move back. If it moves back above, and this is what you should also do, add a horizontal line there, 131. If it moves back above that, well, then a bullish trend is set to resume. Another day with not much going on in the yen pairs. The dollar yen ticked a little bit higher, but it's still below 150. It just had a little peak above, and I think it will still try to push higher towards, but we can see the 100 moving average kind of pushing it or trying to push it back below, but there is room up to 151.85 around that lay, and maybe even up to 153.30 ish area, which is the 61.8 of this entire downtrend here. If it slides back below 149.40 again, it could sell off down to 147.20, which is the key support for a bearish trend. But we can also see the 55 moving average coming around here. So we've kind of been boxed in between those moving averages here. And the RSI, well, yes, it is in a positive sentiment, but it's not really that convincing. We really need something that can trigger a move. Euro yen still in this area between 164 and 161 and it needs to break out before I would give any comments on directions. The Aussie yen also just trading sideways, and I just repeat myself. Also, it's like being boxed in here between the 100 moving average and the 55 coming up here, dancing around the 100 and the 99.90 area at the moment without any direction. I want to see it move before I really say, okay, we are moving higher towards 102.5 and even higher, or if it starts drifting lower towards a 98, which is a key support. So Aussie yen, I will stay off a little bit at the moment. I need some clear signals, more or less the same picture on sterling yen. 196 key resistance for that, and you can also see here the moving average is really kind of putting a lid on the upside potential. But if it does break above 196, then there could be room up to around 199.5, 200 level. Back below 191.70, then I think we'll see a push, or a test of the 189.55 key support. Aussie dollar still in a correction phase, but bouncing off here just around 66.55, a little bit around that. There's still downside potential to 66.40, maybe even to 66.20. So let's see, the RSI is still in a negative sentiment, indicating we could see that, but we have the 55 moving average still dragging it, trying to drag it higher. If it breaks above 67.69, or I would say 67.70, well, then we could see a push towards 68.34 and possibly higher. So a little. If it takes out the lows here at 66.57, I would say 66.55. Always add or subtract a little bit to make sure. Then we'll see a test of these levels here. The dollar Canada has bounced yesterday. We're still in a bit of a correction phase, but it is in a bullish trend. If it takes out the peak here at 138.40, well, then we are looking at 139 and also possibly higher. But there's still possible. It's still a possible scenario to see a correction down to the 38.2 here at 136.78. Dollar Canada, quite volatile lately, and we talked about it yesterday that it was selling off to just to the down to the 55 moving average, then bouncing and now testing the rising trend line here again. So it's a bit indecisive at the moment. What should it do? Should it resume uptrend and push higher, or should it slide lower to test 176.80, which is really the key support? A break below that, I don't think you should wait for. I would not wait for a close below, and then I think we'll see further selling pressure. But it has to do that before it actually get any strong directions for us. Euro-Swiss, well, still in this triangle range here. I'm just repeating myself. Tested it once again yesterday. If it breaks below 93.30, well, then I think we'll see sell-off down to 92.55, even lower to lows around here at 92 level. Breaking above the upper falling trend line, then we are looking at 95, possibly higher, and 100 moving average, kind of giving it a little bit of a hard time to push higher, but it can occur. The dollar Swiss at the 786 retracement of this sell-off down here. A little bit of a resistance, but we are in a positive sentiment, so we could push higher towards the 87.30, 87.5 level. The dollar index, finally, here we are. Dollar index, we are just testing the 200 moving average. There's still potential up to 103.83, maybe even 104.25. It is not the strongest, but around the 103.83 we could see that, and then I think we will see a correction. Look out for that there. We are stretched on the uptrend a little bit, also the sentiment still positive, and I think we'll see a correction, and then maybe next leg higher. New all-time high in gold, and it is pushing higher, and I think it will push higher towards 27.36, which is the 161.8 projection of this correction here. There is divergence on it. You can see the RSI is not really following, but again, the trend is your trend. The trend is your friend, and stick with that, and until we see something otherwise. And I think we could see it pushing higher towards that level, maybe even higher. I mean, I don't have any resistance level. We are in uncharted territory, and I think it will push higher. Looking at the weekly chart just very quickly, we can also see what's going on. It is actually pushing much higher in general, and it's getting farther and farther away from what's all a moving average, and of course that is not sustainable in the long run. So we should see a correction, but for now it is in a strong bullish trend. Just a little bit weakness there with the RSI, and not 100% confirming it. If it moves back below 26.38, then I expect a correction. The silver is picking up again, and could continue if it takes out the 786 retracement at 32.35. Then I think we'll see a push towards $34. And finally on copper. Copper is bouncing from the 61.8 retracement, it seems, at 432.68. It dipped just a little bit below. It could bounce, and we are still in a positive sentiment on the RSI. Minor divergence. So I think if we see it bouncing above 450 and RSI closes above 60 threshold, then we will see another push towards 470, 475. On the oil front, fairly muted the past couple of days. The WTI crude oil has once again tested the falling trend line here, dipping a little bit lower for each day. But if it can get back above 72.41, we could see a push towards 75, but the 100 moving average was kind of putting a lid on that. And I think if we see the WTI dropping below the falling trend line here and RSI below 40 threshold, well, then expect further selling pressure on Brent crude oil. And let's on Monday, let's talk about how the week has ended, and then we can maybe get a better direction if we're looking at the wheel chart. Same here on the Brent. Well, it's just trading sideways, a little bit of volatility, but if it moves back above 75.15, it could push up to around 77.50 maybe, but it's not very strong. However, RSI, similar to the WTI, is still positive, but if it closes below 40, then we could see further selling pressure. Above 60 threshold, then there's further upside potential for the Brent crude oil future. After ECB rate decision, let's have a look at the EuroBund future. This is not the yields, this is the future futures contract that bounced off 133.16 here a couple of days ago, dipped below a couple of times, but we had the 100 moving average coming up and we had the 200 kind of flat, slightly declining. Then the 55 coming in, so kind of being boxed in. I think we will see the future sliding back and be caught in this range here between 133 and 134-ish level. If it breaks above the cloud, and they could move up to test 61.8 retracement at 134.88 and the rising trend line here. If it takes out 132.75, expect the sell-off down to around 131.62. On the US Treasury side, well, we have the US 10-year Treasury yields. Let's just resize it there. We are in a corrective phase. If it breaks above 4.14, well, then there's potential up to around 4.29, 4.30. And there's still possibility for a correction down to around the 390 level, 392. On side, positive sentiment, no divergence, indicating we're likely to see higher highs, but we could see a correction down to that 390 before a push higher. But again, it could also occur. So we're a little bit of a limbo at the moment. Keep an eye on these levels there. And the 2-year Treasury yields, well, starts to picking up a little bit again, but there's still risk down to 380. And here we have the 55 moving average coming around that will give a little bit of support. It could dip down to the 61 at 369. But let's see. We are in a correction phase, but we are in a bullish trend. If it takes out 4%, and most likely also it takes out 4.6, and then there is a room for further upside. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and a nice weekend when you get to there.